when I read those words, something snapped in my head. It was like a dry twig. It was like, all these verses that I'd been reading sort of assembled. It was like one of those transformer thingies. It was like this Postmil system just assembled in my head. And it was like, whee, oh my goodness. I grew up in an ecosystem that was pre-mill dispensational. Everybody around was that way. But my folks were not decidedly anything. They were just, but we were just growing up in a conservative pre-mill environment. And so I picked that up just by osmosis. And at some point, I sort of moved into like Gordon Ladd. I read The Blessed Hope by Ladd.
Right.
And I moved into a historic pre-mill position. I'd never clenched tight on the dispensational system. I just sort of, all right.
Less sensational than
less sensationalistic. And I moved into historic pre-mill. And then I still couldn't get, I knew what I was thinking the system was, but I couldn't derive it from the text. I always felt like I was imposing it on the text instead of deriving it from the text. So finally, I said, phooey, or words to that effect. I just became a non-millennialist.
Right. Pan-millennialist.
All pan out in the end. Yeah. And I remember telling people, look, Jesus is coming again. Don't push me. I know that Jesus is coming again.
I know this much.
I know this much, but I don't know anything about anything else. And so I was a non-millennialist for 2 or 3 years probably. And when I first started having an inkling that there was this thing called postmillennialism, and I was reading the Psalms, and I would write in the margin, postmil, ? What happened somewhere in there, and I think this had something to do with it, I made myself an apostolic study Bible where I looked up all the verses in the New Testament that were quotations from the Old, and I highlighted them, and I highlighted all the references, and most of the Bibles help you with that.
Right.
But then I looked them all up in the Old Testament and highlighted them there, and then I wrote in the margin where in the New Testament this was quoted. And then next time I read through the Old Testament, I had notes. Oh, this is quoted 3 times in the New Testament. The New Testament will tell me what this means. Well, then when I looked at the New Testament, it almost never was what I thought it was. There were frequently rude shocks. Like, really? Are you serious? So I had done that, and so Psalms was all the ends of the earth shall stream and shall serve the Lord, and there's a lot of that. So I was in this floaty, ambivalent state for 2 or 3 years. And sometime near the end, I remember my kids were older. They were in junior high school by this time. And I said one day, kids, at the dinner table, kids, is the world getting better and better, or is the world getting worse and worse? And they said, oh, worse and worse, worse and worse. But we hadn't taught anything like that.
Right.
I was nothing. So I didn't teach them it was getting worse and worse. It's just the air we breathe. And then I was reading a book that I didn't actually care for that much because it was kind of a gaudy, extravagant, typological approach to things. But it was a postmillennial guy that I came across. And it was David Chilton's book, Paradise Restored. And I was reading it, and I came to this verse, and this is one of the weirder spiritual experiences of my life. He quoted 1 Corinthians, for he must reign until he's put all his enemies under his feet. So it was just a quotation of 1 Corinthians. And when I read those words, something snapped in my head. It was like a dry twig. It was like, and all these verses that I'd been reading sort of assembled. It was like one of those transformer thingies. It was like this Postmil system just assembled in my head. And it was like, whee, oh my goodness. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. And according to the pre-mill understanding, the first enemy to be destroyed is death.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For he must reign. Jesus is at the right hand of the Father now, and he must reign. He must stay there until he's put all his enemies under his feet. Then the last, he's going to finally come. We're going to subdue all the enemies except for death. And then Jesus is going to come and subdue death. And it was like, whoa, whoa. And I remember shortly after this, I was out in the backyard planting a hedge and along the alley of our house. And I remember thinking, I can't plant a hedge the same way anymore. This hedge is going to be here in 100 years. What we're doing matters, right? Yeah. What we're doing, if we have kids, if we have grandkids, if we build a school, if we write a book and we influence lives, 1 Corinthians 15:58, your labor in the Lord is not in vain. What we do matters, right? And it matters eternally. But it also matters, and this is the key, it matters historically, right?